مصلحا ومجددا فارنوا بنظر طاهر وجناني.
Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear viewers. Today with us we have our beloved brother, Brother Rafiq from Philadelphia. Assalamu Alaikum, dear brother.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers.
So we're really excited to hear your story today. Our first question is, what is your name and background?
Okay, my name is Rafiq Ahmed Friend. I'm from the city of brotherly love, in this city of sisterly affection. And I've lived here most of my life. I have done some traveling throughout the world. I've seen some different parts of the world, but I've grown up here all my life right here in Philadelphia. So I'm married. I'm married. I have 5 children. I have, I think, 10 grandchildren at this point. I work for the city of Philadelphia. I've worked for the city of Philadelphia I work for the city of Philadelphia as a court officer currently. For many of those years, it's over 20 now, and I work for one judge. And so currently I'm working for the system itself. I'm working as a court officer, so I don't work for any one judge. That's my profession. I do have a small business that I operate as well. It's an online business. It's something I've done for the last 8 years, trying to, bolster what I have as far as my financial plan, my exit strategy, which I'll be retiring in a few years, and planning to dedicate more time to the Jamaat and doing work within the Jamaat. So I'm looking forward to it.
MashaAllah, brother. So before Ahmadiyyat, what religion were you following and what were some of your beliefs?
Before I became a member of the Jamaat, I grew up in a family that was primarily Christian. My mom and my dad, and we were churchgoers. We were not, I don't know necessarily so convicted, but we were regular. And my philosophy up to around maybe 12 or 13, I think, was basically a Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ was, somehow tied to God, and that was a philosophy. But I think around probably between 14, probably 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there, I got exposed. And a lot of us at that time in the early 70s, the Nation of Islam became a very prominent group in our amongst African Americans. And so at the time when I saw these men, what was very attractive to me was the fact that these men were men of conviction. They were this first time I had seen black men in suits that were articulating our issues, and they had kind of stood up against the white man. And it was like, wow, look at these guys, So that was a powerful figure for me as a young black man, always seeing us, in particular at that time, pretty much getting beat down, dogged, and things of that nature during the civil rights struggle. We saw all those things. So for black men to be standing up against this mighty force was really powerful. So I began to look inside and see, what their concept was. And I adopted their concepts at a very young age. I believed that Allah was God, and I believed that the white man was the devil, and I believed that you should not eat pork. That was the main kind of things. But then we began to learn. I think it was very important. We began to learn a great deal about self. It was the first time that someone had really told me that I had real value and that I was more than what I had been seeing all my life. And so again, for a lot of us that were black, in the Nation of Islam, that were black, a lot of us benefited from that, because the image of a black man was just not that positive. But these men, they were saying, no, quite the opposite. And so it gave you a sense of well-being, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. So yeah, that was my first experience with Islam. Now I did jump around because over time I began, like I guess as El Malik Shabazz, may Allah have mercy on him, Malcolm X. Over time, I began to realize there's so much more, something more going on. The spirit's drawing me to something else. There's a limitation here because as I grew in my understanding of life itself, and I understood the views of the Nation of Islam, it did not, fit with what I had started to become as a human being. And I needed to find something else. And I didn't know where Allah was going to lead me to, but it wasn't there anymore. So I kind of got out of that, and I joined another group, which was called the Ansar Group out of New York, headed by a guy by the name of Imam Isa, and also known as Dr. York. And so I started following those guys. But like the Nation of Islam, it was primarily focused on the African American experience. But it did take on the traditional forms of Islam with the kalama, the 5 daily prayers, those things of that nature. So, like Malcolm, I was introduced at that time to the fundamental orthodox, we say, Islam, and I began to, try to understand it from there. And I got discouraged. I got so discouraged, I actually went back to Christianity. No, in between, I studied a little Buddhism. I worked for an entertainer, and his percussionist was a Buddhist. And he used to chant on the back of the bus when we traveled from city to city. And so I asked him, and it was interesting. I wanted to know. So I started doing that for a little while, to learn to chant and pray to the Gohanzen and all that, kind of stuff. And then I jumped into Christianity because I was really confused at that time. And then it was a period of time when I just didn't do anything. There was nothing that I would do actively. So it was all of those things I did before I eventually started, before I was exposed to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. That's what I was doing.
Okay, so that brings us to our next question. You went through all of these phases, then how did you come to Islam, Ahmadiyya, and what convinced you that this is the true Islam?
Okay, so that was a journey as well, because as I said to you, because I had such a just interested opinion about faith itself, and I had heard about the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. The union president of my mother's employers, he was tied to the community for a lot of years, and he used to tell me, but the Ahmadiyya community wasn't that popular at the time within our community. It's kind of very small and very small street, really unknown, not that known. But then when you did hear things about them, they were not, attractive. And so, after hearing many, 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 many years, from my uncle that, is deceased, I saw a friend of mine that I had grown up with. And I was kind of like what you would call the neighborhood Muslim. I was one of the first people in my neighborhood to be a Muslim. And so, like, the younger brothers kind of looked up to me in that regard. But then I really advanced kind of slowly. And ultimately, they began to advance me. And so one of my younger brothers, he kind of transformed his family, and he had a little family, and and I saw him one day, and he just looked different. His clothing was different. So I asked him, what are you doing now? And he says, well, I'm going to the Ahmadiyya. So I said, wow, that looked pretty impressive to me. So he said, do you want to come? I may get arrange you get up there. So I said, okay, let's see what we can do. That Friday, which is Friday, said that someone would pick me up for Juma. And I said, okay. And so person came, picked me up for Juma. And it was at the time, I didn't know where he was, but I said, what's your position? And he says, I'm the president. And I said, what's a president? And he says, it's like an imam. I'm the president. So I was like, wow, the imam came to pick me up. It was like, that was impressive. But, he took me to the mosque and introduced me to a couple other people. we sat down and talked very nicely, very softly, very, kindly. And, I went back, for a couple other meetings with him, maybe one other, and he gave me a book. And he said, "Hey, listen, do you like to read?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he says, "Well, here's a book I think I'm gonna suggest for you. It's a small book," he said, "but it gives you, a good understanding of what the Promised Messiah at the time. I didn't know what he was saying, but his philosophy is." I said, "Okay." So I took the book, and I'm home, and I'm reading this book, and as I'm reading the book, I got probably through 25 pages or so of that book, and I said, "Wait." I did like to read. I had read a lot of stuff, but I had never read anything. What is this? What is this? And I was like, "What is this?" I never read anything like that. So, Nafsi Lawama, Amara, Mutawahina, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What is this stuff? And I turned back and I said, "Who wrote this?" And it said, Allah Muhammad Salam, it's like, this is the guy that says the Promised Messiah. Yeah, this is him. He wrote this. And it right there, boom, I said, he's got to be true. And I began to just, from that point, I really just like, it just right through the heart, like an arrow, right in, man, and it was implanted right there. That book, that's what like convinced me. It was nothing else. And I had people talking to me, but it was his powerful words that just resonated, jumped off the page. Who talks about this? What do you mean lower self? Soul at rest. What is this stuff? So me being an avid reader and seeing stuff for years and years and years, and had never seen or read anything like this relevant to the human experience, let alone the spiritual / religious experience. This was something that was just remarkable, and it just right in. So I was like right there, and I went back and I was like, look, not shortly thereafter that, they explained to me what the Bayat was and the 10 conditions. We reviewed them. We went through them one by one. Everything was explained clearly to me. And I said, I'm in, and I signed right off. That was nearly 30 years ago that I made that decision. And at the time, I was not married. I did not have a job. I did not have a business. I did not have a house. I did not have anything. I truly didn't. And which is, one of the things that I'm just so, so ever grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing me to this spiritual fountain. It's just, I have this, I'm drinking from the spiritual fountain, and all these amazing things that, have happened over time, like not from having a wife to having a wife of, a number of years now. This is about 30 years with her too, from not having a home or anything to owning my home, from, not having a job, but working for the court system for nearly 20 years, and, having a business and having good children, holding position within the Jamaat, all these amazing things. Making Hajj. I made Hajj in 2009. I went to Israel, a place I never wanted to have been to, or in Haifa. I've been to our mosque. These all things opened up to me after I became an Ahmadi Muslim. I wrote one time to Khalifa a letter. A lot of things going on in my life, and one of them was I didn't have a job and things are happening. And I wrote this letter, and people had said, write to Khalifa, and I said, all right, I'll write him. But I never mailed it. Never went out. Probably 5 years later, I was going through some old books, and there was a letter. I said, oh, wow, I never mailed this letter. No wonder I never got an answer. Mailed the dang one thing. So anyway, I opened the letter up. No need to mail it now. It's whole. Every single thing in that letter I asked for had happened. Everything. It was remarkable. I'm like, wow, the letter didn't even go. And, so, yeah, it's just how I got started in the Jamaat. And, I'm a lifer, man.
MashaAllah, that's really inspiring. One common thing with all the interviews is the book, The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam. So we recommend the viewers to also read this book. Our next question is, apart from that book, What about the Ahmadiyya Muslim community itself attracted you the most?
The Khalifa. The Khalifa. The institution of Khalifaship. The idea that the original concept of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reestablished. And then there was a man that was actually here in the world that was the head of it. I was, boom, big eyes. When you know, through my studies through all my life, you know, we had heard that this, you know, you hear about Khalifa, you hear the word Khalifa, the Khalifa, Khalifa. And I said, this organization has a Khalifa? And then, you know, back then, we didn't have the advancements of MTA as we have and all these wonderful technical, you know, things that are happening now today. We just, you know, but we were able to, you know, hear, you know, the Khalifa on cassette tapes. And he was just, whoo, boy, he'd do question and answer sessions. And, you know, you know, you would just like, it was amazing. It was mesmerizing almost that this human being was here and he was, you know, given this, you know, insight to Islam that, you know, nobody else had. And so I've been around quite a few other Muslim communities. And it was like, you know, you can have steak or you can have prime rib, you know what I mean? So it was a real difference. And so that was the most attractive thing that, you know, that was the first pull. Boom, that got me. And I wanted to see the Khalifa, wanted to be around the Khalifa. I just was so inspired just by, you know, what I had heard. I couldn't wait to get to the Khalifa, The second thing was that, you know, and this is real important. I think that we should understand this as a community and then in the general sense. At the time, I became a Ahmadi Muslim, and I told you what my condition financially was and otherwise, you know. And the Imam, our president at that time, the president, Munir Hamid, may Allah have mercy on him, I mean, literally, boom, you know, he took me up under his wing. I was like his child. And they say when you come into the Jamaat that it's like a new infant when a person comes in and is new. It's like an infant. And what kind of attention do you give to an infant? If those that have children understand, gets a lot of attention. And so this is what happens with us. This is what happened with me. That was my experience. I mean, so he gave me firm footing. And he told me there's some things I'm going to see even within the Jamaat, let alone the world. I mean, that's another discussion we'll talk about. But the idea that there's going to be some challenges and that you got to be ready to meet these challenges and to meet it with a glad heart and don't get discouraged by, you know, things that are around you, because there's a sense of purpose that we have to achieve. And so, you know, understanding that he embraced me as his own, I encourage everybody, look, when we got you know, when somebody's in your space and they're new, it could be a new job or whatever, you know, and you're the guy that can give them the guidance or give them the love, then do that, because that's what he did for me. So that was very powerful. You got the Khalifa, then you got a guy that's acting like what the Khalifa said you should do. He wasn't just saying it. He actually did it. He bought me clothes. He took me to New York. He took me to the Arab section. He did all these wonderful things for me. And then I was very fortunate because I had a series of men, mostly at the time, that really gave me my foundation for all African American. Uncle Haji Talib Dawood, he was responsible for a lot of the jazz musicians that ended up being members of the Jamaat, including like Yusuf Latif and all these guys. You know, Haji Talib Dawood was a significant person. I knew him personally. He had 20,000 books in his house. It was amazing. And then there was Uncle Ghulam Muhammad, an extraordinary man. That was the one that was the union president. We had Uncle Haji Mustafa Hashim, Uncle Abdul Salam, Uncle Sultan Latif. These are all really strong men that really, they embraced me. I mean, I was the young guy. They're all dead. Man, Allah mercy. Every single one I just named, gone. And I was the young guy now. I'm not the good guy no more. You know, so that too was powerful. That was very powerful. Then it was, of course, the rest of the sense of connection with the rest of the brothers. you know, and then we, you know, we had things we really did, like Jalsa. What's a Jalsa? You know, what is that? You know, Jalsa, we go away. And then I had the good fortune to go to United Kingdom, got there, the UK Jalsa, we call it. Been there 3 times, you know, and a remarkable journey, but never expected. Remember, this is a guy that had nothing. 0 when I started. When I became Ahmadi, boom, nothing. Then I became Ahmadi, voila. You can see a little bit of my house back there. It's okay. It's a nice house. You know, I enjoy it. It's my wife's house now. But, you know, the reality was that was another thing, you know, that kind of, you know, like this, you know, like look around and, you know, like my brother here that's giving me the interview today, it's just, you know, such sweetness about him, just a wonderfulness. And we're brothers. We're really brothers. We feel the connection. You know, it's electronic, but we feel the connection, the bond. That's what we have as a community, as a Jamaat, the possibilities of this crazy. And in light of what we see today with all the chaos that's going on, we have the answer. But we got to do some internal stuff first. We got to do some internal stuff first. So that, again, another conversation. But the reality is we have the answer. And then, okay, I'm one of the people that want to, you know, help promote the answer. And so we have MTA. It's crazy. I mean, MTA. I told Hazor last time I was in London last year, and we have, you know, doing our Mullikat, and I said, Hazor, I said, MTA is amazing. I said, because when we started out, we had a giant dish, huge, this big old thing, sit on the side of the house, somebody in the living room, turn to the left, turn to the right, you know, and adjust the thing, and finally we get it. Now today, ooh, I just pop this thing out, boom, you know, pick him, Khalifa right there. I got all kinds of stuff. That shows you just how advanced and advancing we are. That was 30 years ago. I mean, it's like CNN and MSNBC and all those major networks. We got 8 countries. What? It's incredible. So the sky's the limit. But if we don't, like now, the world is in chaos. And Allah's saying, okay, what you want to do? You know, got all the equipment. You got the Messiah. You got the Imam of the age. You got the institution of Khilafah established. And I spread your message four corners of the world. It's all over. You're all over the place. What you going to do? Now, which one be your excuse when you know, if we go back, we're like, you know, I mean, fortunately, things don't go out the way we're supposed to. And you say, oh, okay. So again, I guess that's the mission. So you say, like, what keeps me? What draws me? All that. All of that. All of that. That's what the step by step. First starts off with the institution of Khilafah. Okay. So I'm very passionate. They say I'm vigily. I think that's what it's the word, vigily or vigily. They say I'm electric. And I feel energized in most cases because I get up real early and tahajjud and do all this stuff. Khalifa tells us to do that. He said, get up, get that tahajjud in. Do that. If the Khalifa tell you to do that, then do it. See, that's another thing, I guess. I don't have to think too much. You really don't. It's like, okay, you got MTA, you got question and answer sessions. You even got the 4th Khalifa. You know, I listened to him the whole month of Ramadan. He's remarkable. Really heavy. And so you just listen. But then you got to do what he say. And that's when you'll find the success. Oh, you can get money. You can get status. You get the pretty girl, pretty wife, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Smart kids, all that, and still be driving yourself nuts. Nobody particularly care for you or like you. Oh, he's home. It's him. You know, that's not the way of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So I guess all of those things, man, really.
MashaAllah, that was really inspiring and motivating. The next question I want to ask you is, did you face any backlash when you joined the Jamaat, or was everything peaceful for you and your family?
Not a whole lot, but I do have a story to tell. You know, again, being an avid reader, I was reading a book called Surah Fatiha, Commentary on the Holy Quran. It's a book by the Messiah, it gives a detailed account about the Fatiha, and it gives a very, very detailed explanation of Surah Fatiha. And I was given the book by Munir Hamid, may Allah have mercy on him. He gave me the book. And I was reading it. And I was down in our subway system and I was waiting for the train. And two, I don't know if they were Arab or Palestinian or what they were, but they came and they sat one down, I mean, right close to me. Assalamu Alaikum, brother. I said, oh, walaikum salam. Brother, do you know what you are reading? I mean, I said, Surah Fatiha, commentary on the Quran. Like, do you know who wrote this book, brother? I'm like, Ghulam Ahmed, Kariati. I'm thinking these guys are authorities, man. You know, that's another misnomer, right? People from the Middle East are the authorities. He said, you know, and I'm like, no. This man, he says, he's an agent of the British. I said, oh my God. It's like, colonized, man. They're spies, he said. I said, oh my God. But I'm like, this is incredible, right? Then he says, let me tell you how he died, brother. I said, how? On the toilet. And stuck with the law, you know. He died on the toilet, brother, as a kafir. Stuck for it, God forbid. I say, oh my gosh. They didn't tell me this. I know it was something, but this is how the mind works. As intelligent as I was, and as much as I understood what he was saying, I allowed them to come right in and throw me off my square. So, of course, I went right back to Uncle Munir. I was like, Uncle Munir, listen, you didn't tell me, you know, and the people, when they said, and I was all excited, he said, calm down, pump the brakes, take it easy. He said, let me tell you, first of all, he was not a spy. And he says, he did not die in that regard. He says, they did not have toilets for him to be inside and dying on no toilet. So he was just trying to show me that, you know what, this stuff is just like, you're going to hear it. It's going to come, you know, it's going to come at you. And, you know, I lost your question again. Sorry, come back again. Your question.
It was basically if you've had any backlash.
Right. So, yeah, I got it. So that was kind of like a real more direct, but we've, you know, through time, you know, we've learned that we are not well received by some communities. And I remember in particular, you know, some brothers being in situations where we had to show up and say, listen, you know, some Sunni guys are around. They're kind of intimidating us, you know, our Pakistani brothers. And, you know, a lot of African Americans, they're Sunnis in the area. Someone just being a little obstinate, you know, not all of them. Most of them's cool with us, you know. But this group was, you know, being a little particular. So we, you know, we just walked around and we, hey, you know, that's our brothers. And so they kind of backed off from that. So, you know, I didn't have too much opposition from my family because nobody in my family was Muslim. So I was the only one. And then the brothers in the neighborhood, it was not that many, me being one of the first. So I didn't have too much opposition from that. But as you go along and you start to expose yourself, you know, there's always times when you get people, you know, we have our Tabligh trailer out. Somebody comes up with some knucklehead stuff, saying stuff to us, you know. Some, you know, people take our books, go around the corner, come back. They bring them back because somebody told them, you know, things of that nature. So, you know, we're always, you know, dealing with things like, you know, little stuff like that. In Philadelphia, we don't have too much opposition. For the most part, most of the mosques are reasonable people. I actually have really good relationships with several mosques here in Philadelphia. So opposition, not like it is in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. No. We can, you know, no. This slight, but not nothing like it. Most.
Okay, brothers. So the next question is, since you're from Philadelphia, our beloved Imam recently visited the mosque in Philadelphia. So how was your experience there? If you can shed some light on that.
You see, I had a really big smile that I was trying to contain when you said that. It was extraordinary. You know, some things you just can't put into words. like the International Bayat ceremony. It's just such a powerful, powerful, experience. So when I was in London the last time before our mosque was built, I asked him, I said, hey, we're building a mosque in Philly. Would you consider coming and doing the inauguration? So when they said that he was actually coming, this was like, I literally stopped doing everything in my life. I mean, my business, the job, I like took 2 weeks off. Like, I went full blast. I did it. I worked so hard to the bone because he was coming. And it was just like, this is just incredible that he is actually going to come to Philly. And I kept thinking, Philadelphia, you're going to be so blessed. Philadelphia, Philly, you're going to be so blessed. The man, God's man's coming to your town. We had the Pope here, and they came out big for the Pope, and I was trying to get them to come out big for the Khalifa. Didn't get as big numbers as I wanted, but we did pretty good with the Khalifa. I mean, it was just like extraordinary that I'm thinking for the city, and then for our community, and in the community that he was. And I was just thinking that everywhere he walks is blessed place. It's blessed step, blessed step, blessed step. The things that he said to the people. Like I want this community to wipe your tears away. One lady afterwards, she's on a video. They videotaped, and she says, this is a woman, just like a black woman. She's African American from inner city, and she says she's come with crying tears. She says this is after Khalifa spoke, and then it's like, who says that? Who? What? She literally, she's like, who? What kind of man? What human being says wipe somebody's tears? She said it almost made me cry. As she said, it was such a powerful thing. So when I had a personal mullicat with him, and it was great. I mean, he sat there. He asked me how old I was, which was really unusual. I guess he's figuring like, look, I ain't gonna talk about what he said, but I had a lot of times I was like in close proximity when he was getting ready to leave. I was like this. He was here and I was here. Like we were literally standing right next to each other. The crowd was all around, but I had special clearances. And so they allowed me to stand right next to him. And so it was taking a little long for them to come and get him. And then he grabbed me by my arm and he whispered something in my ear and he went back inside. And everybody said, what did he say? And I've been sworn to secrecy never to tell that what he said to me. But he did. It was like, you know what? He whispered at me and said, and he went on back inside. And, just little special stuff like that was just like incredible. But then I had the good fortune to call the Adhan twice for him. I called the Adhan for Fajr prayer for the last prayer before he left. He left right, before Dhuhr. But for Fajr, I got, you got, wow, for the Khalifa. So I did that. I did that for the Khalifa while I was here in Philly. And so, no words, but those words.
MashaAllah, really inspiring. So in the end of our interview, if you can just give a message to the opponents of Ahmadiyyat and the Christians of why they should join Ahmadiyyat and how it can change their life.
Okay, so, because of what you're seeing right now, the chaos in the world is because, unfortunately, the structure of faith has failed man. Islam itself, in particular, the Islam with the Imam of the age and the institution of Caliphate, because you got to kind of bring it up to the time, what's happening right now. So who has the structure? Who in the world? What organized effort from a spiritual place first? Because remember, it starts, we say he got selected by God Almighty. There was an election, but God picked the man. And we know, as we've seen over time, the Prophet Messiah said, look, I don't care if none of y'all say nothing to me, the rock's going to testify. And then he says, my message is going to go to the four corners of the world. And it just got telegraphed there, and then it's all over the world. So you see that there's a direct connection and we're advancing. And so our message is the right message. So, we understand to the opponents, there were 300 years of persecution against Nabi Isa and his followers. 300 years. We're in 100 years. Okay. And hopefully we'll, be cut that in half, maybe 150 by the time y'all really, maybe be 150 because, it took a long time, 300 years of persecution, but eventually, that it took foothold. But today it's not working. And it's not working because, the accountability part, somebody died for my sins. How much effort you going to put in, really? Islam demands, it says, look, you are accountable for yourself. And so you go through this exercise of the 5 daily prayer, which builds a relationship with the Almighty Allah that you gotta have. You must have this in order. And I just had this conversation with my sons tonight. I said, in order to set the moral compass, values, you gotta have a relationship with the Creator. And my mother and them put that in me when I was a Christian. That was God was real. God was something you had to be accountable to. Right now, God's out the door. And so the people through their exercise, and I appreciate, people are frustrated and they feel a sense of hopelessness and all that. And some people just got political axe to grind and they're going to rip and tear and do that. But your opponents, our Prophet side said, you're going to keep challenges and challenges. And eventually you're going to, like the Quran said, you're going to look away and you're going to go away fatigued because we're growing. Like the world, look, we are advancing. We are the group that has established. Our Khalifa went to all the world leaders. All they got to do is read with this book or go back over the recorded statements because they record everything and say, look, what did he tell you? He told you these things are going to happen. If you're not just and you're not living in a just system, you're going to have these major breakdowns. So in order for us to bring it back in order, his new mantra is, you got to have supreme justice. That's why he said, let's take the Black Lives Matter, the BLM, and I get it. But that's a political thing. I understand about protests. We've been protesting forever. We protest. We get upset. You killed Trayvon, you killed Tamir, you killed Sandra, you killed Eric Gardner. I can't breathe. Hands up. Now you got George. Now you got this guy just last night. We protesting right now and they're still killing you. That ain't going to work. We got to change the mind and the heart, or the heart and the mind. And so we have to begin to, to the opponents, relax. Okay, we get it. You don't quite understand, but at least be civil. Sit down and have a reasonable dialogue with us. Let's break it down. Bring your proofs. We'll bring our proofs. And then, hopefully we can come to some kind of compromise. And if you don't want to join on with us, at least don't bother us, okay? Let us get out of our way and let us do the work, okay? We're not trying to get in your way. Don't get in ours. We're trying to save the world. And to the Christians, that philosophy don't work. It's a broken system because you're relying on somebody else to correct your condition. And the only way you can correct yourself is, that's what the Quran says, I'm not going to change your condition until you change condition inside yourself. And that's a personal effort. You're not going to lose weight by keep eating donuts. You're not going to build muscle tone by sitting, changing the remote control. You can have a gym membership. And they say, here, man, take this gym membership and go to the gym and work out and you'll get some muscle tone. You go to the gym and sit there. Sit down on the bench and watch TV. So there's an active interaction thing that has to be done. And I think that we got the best system. I'm not being a braggart, or I've examined all the rest of them. I look at not all of them, of course, but a great many of them. In the beginning, I said how my journey went. And I've been in this movement now for like almost 30 years and I ain't going nowhere. It's a lock. I couldn't go nowhere else. It's like if I be drinking Kool-Aid as some really rich, flavorful, you know what I mean? And I'm not willing to do that. So at this stage in the game, I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to, wind it back so that I can do more. And I think these things like what we're doing now, coming up to speed and putting ourselves out in social media platforms and articulating our points, so that, opponents can see we're not against you. We really aren't. We're not trying to take your position, but we just don't want you to bother us. And to our Christians, which the Quran actually says is the closest to us in belief. We just got to get that little thing about Nabi Isa. If we can get that part straight, we got the answer. But we got to be able to make people feel comfortable, to be able to sit down with us and say, you know what, we love you. We love you. We showing you how to love. We're not showing this out of hatred. Love for all, hatred for none. No, get that. We're showing this out of love. And we want to show you something that maybe you've not been aware of. And after we've done that, we've done as Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We've conveyed the message properly. And it's up to Allah at this point that, you know, implant it in the heart. But for us, in closing, it's just very strongly during these days of turmoil, pandemics, you know, chaos, wars, you know, madman at the top, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. It's time to do some deep, deep, deep prayer. Some deep, deep, deep prayer. Khalifa been telling us for years now, do deep prayer. Well, I do. I'm encouraging you all to. May Allah bless you. May Allah have mercy on you and continue to help you and your families. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah, dear brother. In the end, we thank you once again for your precious time, and we pray for the viewers that Allah continues to guide them to the true Islam. And for all the non-Ahmadis watching, I hope that they benefit. I learned a lot from your story, so I thank you once again. And in the end, we pray that Allah changes the condition of the world and grants everyone peace and happiness. Thank you, dear brother.
Yes, indeed. You're most welcome. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to express myself. Love for all, hatred for none. Assalamu Alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu Alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
If you have not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you can get notifications for every new video. Also make sure to like and comment on the video and follow on Twitter and Instagram.
سفينا صل على محمد